Coach, making no big statement, but we'll raise your hands and get the microphone to you for questions.
How we doing? Tennessee here at 7:30, Williams-Brice Stadium, first home night game of the season. I know we're excited about that. I know our fan base is excited. I know our players are really excited to get in front of our fans again. Jeremy Pruitt's done a really good job. I think you look at game one to where they are now, the improvement that Tennessee's made. Had a huge win 2 weeks ago down at Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and I know how difficult it is to play there. But did a really nice job in that ball game of competing and making the plays that they had to do to win the football game. So they've improved tremendously. Jarrett Garantano is a quarterback. Over 60% of his passes he's completing, but what really strikes you is when you watch the tape is the deep balls. He's very accurate with the deep balls. He's got a good core of receivers that do a really good job down the field, finishing on plays down the field. Keller Christ came in the last game and transferred from Stanford and did a fantastic job against Alabama. Was very efficient. They're very similar skill set guys. I don't see a lot of difference in what they do or what they call from a standpoint of who's in the ball game. So we'll be prepared for both guys. They got a really good stable of backs. Chandler and Jordan led by those guys, but they do a good job of rotating those guys in there, leaking them out of the backfield, throwing the football to them. The receiving core is big and physical. Callaway is a guy we've competed against and a guy we got a lot of respect for. Is also their punt returner, but is a bigger body down the field. Jennings is a 6'3", 215-pound guy that covers kicks, does a lot of things for him, but a very physical player, a physical presence on the field. Josh Palmer, Tyler Bird, Jordan Murphy, all guys that run extremely well. So they're talented at the skill positions. Dominic Wood-Anderson's a tight end that we recruited. Know very well that's a really good athlete. Defensively, Jeremy's running that side of the ball and doing a really good job. It starts with their three seniors up front. Those guys have done a nice job for them. Phillips and Tuttle and Johnson are really holding the point, and they shift from 3 and 4 down. They got some really loose edge guys with Johnson and Darrell Taylor, who's having a really good year for them. I think had 3 sacks against Georgia. So they're really talented on the edges, and then the 2 linebackers, Patuli and Kirkland, and both have played a lot of football for them. And their secondary is led by Nigel Warrior, who's a guy we recruited as well. And young but very talented in the secondary, but a really good, well-coached special teams unit. We got our work cut out for us. So as far as the injury front, DJ Warren practiced today, and he's ready to go for Saturday. It's great to have him back. A.J. Turner will be cleared for Saturday. Nick Harvey and J.T. eBay will both be out on Saturday. I thought we had a good off week. We came in on Tuesday and worked, and then had really good work days Wednesday and Thursday. Gave the players off Friday and Saturday, and then came back on Sunday and had a Tuesday-like preparation for Tennessee. Yesterday off, and I thought we had another good day today, and we need to finish the week strong, getting ready for Tennessee, and I'll open up for any questions.
Raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you, David, first.
Will, with DJ coming back, how does that affect where BAW plays on the field? Will he come back more inside and play linebacker?
No, he'll still be on the edge, especially I think it can vary from game to game, but in this game, having both their presence on the edges helps us. And Bryson's been very active and had a really good year to this point.
Is there something that DJ, and specifically with him being out, what was missing from this defense, and what do you think that he can bring as far as just not only that, but also just an infusion, making sure that the turnover battle can once again be in your favor?
Well, I think that, obviously he's a very productive player in his 2 years here at South Carolina. Really, you see a lot of people offensively have really attacked our edges defensively, in my opinion, in the run game. He adds another dimension to us as far as a pass rusher is concerned. But probably, I would say more than anything, from a leadership standpoint and a presence standpoint, a guy that's got a lot of respect in the locker room. He's one of 3 players in school history that have been voted a team captain in their true sophomore year. So it says a lot about the respect that DJ has in the locker room and the type young man he is. When he's on the practice field, the way he practices, the way he goes about his business, he helps our football team improve and get better.
Go way in the back, Mike.
Well, what were the conversations like this past week during the bye with the receivers, and what were some of the reasons maybe given for so many dropped footballs the first half of the season?
Well, again, I don't think you can get overly technical. The bottom line is we got to secure to the tuck as far as catching the football is concerned. Obviously, in times we're trying to catch the football and look ahead down the field, and you've got to secure the catch first and secure to the tuck. Guys are on the jugs machine a little bit more, but again, those guys are talented guys that have caught a lot of footballs for us, and it's something that obviously no one needs to tell them that we need to improve in that area. They understand that, and they're excited about the next opportunity to play at Williams-Brice.
Has there been any progress or any more discussions on the 12th game front? And I know Bryson said that you guys have kind of been telling the players you guys expect to be here playing on December 1st.
I'm very confident we'll be playing December 1st. I don't know against who. That's Coach Tanner, and I'll let him handle that.
Well, I know you haven't played every team in the FCC East yet, but you've probably seen them all on film and stuff. How much better is the SEC East this year than it was last year?
I mean, I don't know how to quantify that. I think that you look at number one. To me, you look at quarterbacks returning. I think all of us have quarterbacks returning other than Kentucky in the East. I think that's a kind of a mark of where someone can be. To be offensively, to be able to go on the road and play well, that's to me a common factor you need to have. I think that you look at Kentucky; they got 14 senior starters on their football team. They're playing at a high level. Obviously, Georgia's a talented football team. Of the teams that we've played, Kyle Shermer's done a fantastic job at Vanderbilt in his time there, and they've played well at times. So they took Kentucky down to the wire. To have an opportunity to win the game in Lexington. So Drew Locke is as good a quarterback, and I think you'll see that in April come the NFL draft. His arm talent, the skill that they have outside, and probably as good an inside techniques that we've played this year in Terry Beckner. As far as their interior defensive line, as far as moving those guys, we had as hard a time against them as we did anyone that we've played. So, yeah, I think that it certainly is a very good division, and we would say improved. I don't know how to quantify that, but it is a very strong division.
Over here to left, John.
On the December 1st game, did your feelings on that change, whether you wanted to play? Did you become more vocal in playing another game based on how the season has gone up to this point?
No, we want to play 12 games.
Will, is it easy to ignore some of the criticism that goes around on social media, that kind of thing, about players? I mean, have you seen those guys mention it at all over these past couple of weeks?
No, man. It's part of it. It's part of it. We have high expectations too. Our players have tremendously high expectations. We do as a staff. We do as a program, and we know where we're headed. And at the end of the day, we're not where we want to be, but that's part of having a championship culture is criticism. That's part of it.
With Jake, as he's gotten healthier, how much has that helped his confidence, and how much of that did you notice throughout the bye week and as you've been working as far as the start this week?
Well, I don't know, Will, that I wouldn't say that he was 100% in our last ball game. I would say he was a pretty high percentage. We wouldn't have put him out there if he couldn't protect himself. But I've certainly seen him more mobile in the off week and then today and Sunday night as opposed to maybe before.
Coach, how's Josh Bell coming off that ankle injury, and where have you seen him progress in terms of his conditioning and getting in shape?
Well, he is. He's doing a really good job. Josh is a really good place for me right now, and that's he and I we need to get him in shape and we need to get him healthy, and that's the most important thing, and that's what we're working through right now. And I've been really proud of how he's handling things.
Way at the back.
Coach, just given how the last few games between you and Tennessee have gone, what do you expect from the environment and competitive level and atmosphere on Saturday?
Well, they've always been closely contested games in our first two seasons, and there's no doubt it'll be a great environment here at Williams-Brice on Saturday night. I don't know who's keeping the clock on the field. They got about 12 plays in 3 seconds last year, but that was unusual. Go ahead.
Well, Jake said he thought there were some guys who made some improvements during the bye week. Anyone stand out in particular to you?
I don't know. I mean, we had a really good focus on our young group on Tuesday, like we do on Sunday nights during the season, which I think is always beneficial for, it's a developmental game to continue to develop those guys. I've seen a guy like Dylan Wonnum has continued to improve. At the right tackle position, has done a really nice job in his opportunities and played well in our last ball game. I think JJ and Ricky have both continued to make strides up front. To have, again, it's just all about turns and reps. And as many as they can get, the more improved in doing it the right way, which that's the part of, being a good player is practicing the right way. And I think they've bought into that and understand that. Rosendo Lewis and Ernest Jones and Damani Staley at the linebacker position. I've seen some strides there. R.J. Roderick continues to do some nice things at the safety position. Josh Vann is a young receiver that is getting more and more opportunities to do some good things for us. Jordan Rhodes is an offensive guard, continues to improve. So, and again, I'm just off the top of my head that those are guys that, as we evaluate the film every day from practice, that are making positive strides in the right direction.
Way in the back, Mike.
Well, coming off the bye week, what are some of the biggest improvements you think Jake has to make in the second half of the season?
Well, I think just play within what he's asked to do, and that's, one thing as far as when you're a competitor and, play in the moment and do what we're asking you to do from a read standpoint and taking the ball to the right spots. Obviously, ball security would be number one. Got to take care of the football. We've had 3 interceptions in the end zone. That's something we can't afford to have happen. You look at the point swing that we've had, turnovers in our red zone or in the opponent's red zone is about a 52-point swing on our football team this year. That's very difficult to overcome. So, taking care of the football is number one, and then just playing within what we're trying to do. And again, the guy's a competitor. He competes his butt off, and that's why he's got the respect of this team and this staff.
Stay way in the back, Joe.
Coach, what's your what's your biggest concern, I guess, for your defense going into this game, as far as things you guys been trying to correct during the bye week and everything? What's something you guys are stressing during practice this week?
Well, their receiving core is, they're a very talented group, very big group. When you're talking, Jennings and Callaway, both are, 6'3" plus, bigger receivers that do a really good job down the field of catching the football. Garantano's done a nice job of throwing the vertical ball down the field. Chris did a nice job when he was in the game against Alabama. So that matchup, obviously, I think we've made some improvements in the run game. We've got to continue to. We've been very inconsistent as far as that's concerned. So those would be the biggest issues going in the game.
Gino.
Well, how do you personally measure overall progress in your football program?
I think from a standpoint of, player improvement, unit improvement, when you look from week to week, month to month, within the season, day to day progress, obviously you're measured by your record. You are what your record is at the end of the day. We're 3-3 right now. But from my eyes, I see a lot of, improvement from week 1 to where we are at this point.
After the A&M game, you mentioned how Sherrod and TJ played better. Is that as well as they've played all season?
I think that was their best game. Yeah, very productive, very active, tackled well, leveraged the ball well, didn't misfit some runs and some things. I thought but they had a great week of practice. I told both of them on Friday as we were going through the walkthrough, both of you guys had your best week of preparation, in my opinion, this year, and it both carried over to game day. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's the way it's supposed to happen.
Is that all it takes to continue that moving forward, is just preparing that way?
Well, we can't talk about it. We got to be about it. And I think that both of them had good days on Sunday. I think TJ's, has had a hip flexor, has had some different bang-up issues, and we took care of him in the open week. He's probably as fresh as he's been since the beginning of the season. So Sherrod's done a nice job. So we need both of those guys to continue to play well.
With eBay and Harvey out, who are you looking to make a step forward in the secondary?
Well, Jam and Steven and RJ are the 3 safeties. Javon Charleston, is the 4th safety as far as those things are concerned, and Jalen Dickerson would be the 5th. Mm-hmm.
What's made the offensive line play so well this year? What kind of traits have they improved on year over year?
Well, I think Eric does a really good job of developing at that position. I think that's first of all. I think that those guys have bought into the work ethic and how we practice. And I think from an experience standpoint, John, to be honest with you, take Zach's played a lot of snaps for us. Donnell's played a lot of snaps for us. Dennis Daly's in his second year with us, but has played a lot of football for us. Blake Camper, Cedarius Hutcherson, Dylan Wanham's a young player that continues to develop. Jordan Rhodes is a young player that continues to develop. Chandler Farrell's done a nice job when he's been called upon to get in there. Malik Young has been a guy that's been injured, obviously, all the way through spring and came in and had a really good camp. And when he's had his opportunities, he's played well. So I think there's been some good quality depth. We have more competition, and I think experience has been a part of that.
Have you diagnosed any themes recently in slow starts, and how do you plan to address that?
You know, we talk about things as far as getting out of the gate quick in a game if we can, and I think that we've had some, you know, I thought we played extremely well in Nashville starting the game. I think on sides of the ball we've played well in parts, but not overall. So that's something we continue to talk about within the organization and what we need to do to get out of the gates quicker. You know, we talk about the coin toss more than you could even imagine as far as what is our best matchup, who do we put out there, and there's a lot goes into that. Now, when we lose the toss, I can't control that. Some of our fans don't understand that. But that's something that is discussed at length, and you know, certainly is always important to get out, especially when you're 3-3 to a good start.
Last week you mentioned, on a different subject, last week you mentioned making some changes with the way you call plays or what you call to make sure you get into the run game more. What have you decided to do moving forward?
Well, I think it's, you know, the RPOs have been very productive for us. I think it's a little misleading sometimes for Brian when you get into a game and you're calling a run, and obviously it's tagged with an RPO, and they give you a loaded box, or the flow of a linebacker, or a safety spins down to give you a bad number in the box, you're throwing the RPO because numbers tell you to do that. Well, I think that it gets in your mind a little, as the game flow is going along, you've called the run, in your mind you've called the run, but we're throwing an RPO. So those are things to me that we talked about in the off week, is playing a run to a run. You know, we're going to run it, let's run the ball. But we're not going to get away from the RPOs because they have been very productive. It creates one-on-ones with some of our best players.
You've mentioned Dylan Wanham a couple times today. Is he a guy that you think perhaps by year's end could maybe work his way into the starting lineup, or do you more foresee him in that kind of rotational role that he's been in thus far?
Well, he's a guy that certainly, you know, based on how he practices, could develop to that role.
What have you seen so far from Tennessee's defensive backs?
Well, I think that, you know, they're active. Nigel's the guy that jumps out at me. Is a very active safety, is in man coverage, does a really nice job. They're young at the corner position, but talented. But, I mean, I think Jeremy, that's his background, is coaching secondary. And, you know, just watching their techniques and some of the, you know, very similar tree that I come from, he comes from. And there's a lot of similarities that carry over that you see. He's playing really well for him. He's got 2 interceptions on the year, and starting for him, he's playing really good football for him. Really happy for Bryce.
Stand back, Joe.
Well, dovetailing off of that, I'm just curious, Coach, as a coach, when it comes to recruiting, when you have a guy like Bryce, a guy that you were looking at, and now he's having success, and now you're going to be going against him, is it that like an awkward feeling at all when you have those kind of matchups like that?
No, I'm happy for Bryce. He did an outstanding job here in Columbia at Dutch Ford High School, and he's having a great start to his career at Tennessee. I'm really happy for him.
As you and Jeremy and Kirby, more and more Saban people from that Saban system take over head coaching roles, do you find yourselves recruiting the same guys more because you do look for a similar thing? Do you feel like there's more head-to-head?
I would say so. I think that sometimes our recruiting diagram is a little different as far as geographically speaking, as far as where we're recruiting more guys. That may change a little bit, but certainly the traits that we're looking for and description of player. And I've never worked with Jeremy personally, but certainly, absolutely, I think certainly the job description by position the critical factors at each position that we look for. Probably a lot of similarities, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder, you know.
Do you notice even guys who didn't come up in Nick's system have tried to copycat the approach that you guys use in recruiting, just in terms of those character traits and going after the guys?
Well, it's really interesting. When we offer somebody, they get offered real quick by a lot of schools, and I can normally tell you the ones that do. So I don't know that they've watched the tape, but they see that we've offered, so they end up offering. That's kind of the world we're in right now with social media.
I know that when it comes to motivating guys, it's not hard to do, but how do you change the motivation when you sit at 3-3 and, you know, maybe the division's out of reach, but you still have plenty left to accomplish, such as bowls and things of that nature?
We haven't had any discussions as far as that. We've had great practices. There's been not one moment that I've wondered about the motivation of this football team. It really hasn't been, Will, to be honest with you. I've had a great off week. You're always concerned in an off week. You know, where's the focus? We don't have a game at the end of the week. You know, what is the motivation? We put pretty strict, you know, guidelines on what we needed to do to improve our football team, and they embraced that and took that and ran with it. You're always concerned when you give them 48 hours off, and you know, they come back there on Sunday, and we had an outstanding practice Sunday night, which was a very physical Tuesday-like practice. They had yesterday off, and I thought we had a good morning today. So. You know, there's a lot out there. You're playing for the University of South Carolina. You got an opportunity to play in front of 80,000 people on Saturday night. What else do you need to get motivated about?
Anything else for Coach?
All right. Have a great day.